just give it a little bit more like, I don't know.
A roller coaster.
Yeah, a little bit more.
Hills and valleys, Brendan. Hills and valleys.
I know this is something I'm asking you guys to do, but you're men, and it's kind of a big deal. You just don't know who's going to be listening. It might
Men
be
in
like,
tights.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
I'm going to put this in the episode just so you know. Men in tights. I'm a man. Are you making fun of people in their 40s?
No, it's
Okay.
a college football coach, Mike Gundy, said that after a game when reporters were angry at his players who were in their early 20s.
Oh,
I'm
got
a
it.
man. I'm 40.
Okay.
Ion Sports Podcast is proudly participating in Movember's annual fundraising campaign, which encourages people to sign up at Movember.com, grow a mustache, move to commit to walking or running 60 miles, host a virtual event, or mow your own way.
Mow Your Own Way is a choose-your-own-adventure activity and allows people to pick how they want to support Movember. The new challenge could include riding your motorcycle across the country or doing 100 burpees and allows supporters to participate and not be limited by what they want to do.
All the support will change the face of men's health, raising funds and awareness for mental health and suicide prevention, prostate cancer, and testicular cancer.
The Ion Sports Podcast team, along with Butler Eagle Sports writers, have a goal to raise $1,000 for the month of Movember. The charity raises funds to deliver innovative breakthrough research and support programs that enable men to live happier, healthier, and longer lives. Committed to disrupting the status quo, millions have joined the movement, helping to fund over 1,250 projects around the world.
In addition to tackling key health issues faced by men, Movember is working to encourage men to stay healthy in all areas of their life, with a focus on men staying socially connected and becoming more open to discussing their health and significant moments in their lives.
The charity's vision is to have everlasting impact on the face of men's health. To donate or learn more, please visit Movember.com. Movember is a registered 501c3 charity. To donate to our fundraising goal, click the link in our story or bio. Help us at Alter Eagles Ion Sports reach our goal of $1,000 towards Movember for men's health.
On behalf of myself, Eagle Sports writer and host Derek Pito.
I am Eagle Sports writer Brendan Howe.
And I'm Eagle Sports editor Jake Murda Adams.
Thank you.
Today's episode is sponsored by Butler County Chamber of Commerce, Robert Stevens Custom Jewelers, R.W. McDonald & Sons Incorporated. Thank you to our sponsors for supporting Ion Sports.
So we have one podcast host here that went on a trucking expedition last week, and now another that's riding his motorcycle across the country.
Yeah.
Are you also stopping in
Do you
Minnesota?
have a motorcycle? Does anybody here have a motorcycle?
I don't even have a bike.
What?
Did you not learn how to ride one?
No, I just don't have one anymore.
Just doesn't have one.
Well, I rode I rode a bike a lot when I was a kid, but I have not been on a bike in, my gosh, 12, 13 years probably.
I'll take you guys on a bike ride.
I went to Appalachian Run Company on Sunday to get new running shoes because I needed them. And so, yeah, that was my where I was actually trying to go with this, if I don't want to stumble over myself, is I might actually try to join a group that runs periodically. Because I could do more social networking. I don't really do much outside of the office and going home with my wife. So need to have a larger friends network. So I'm trying to see if that might be something I want to do.
You want to play flag football?
Turkey Bowl.
No, Turkey Bowl is an exclusive event.
Oh, well, we're coming to that. Then. We're coming to that with signs. You know that.
That's fine by me. We're going to win. So
I'll see the results on ESPN. That's okay. I'm good.
Not top 10. We're sorry, Brendan. We're not, but we are.
Hey, I made a play on Saturday where this kid played for
Did you jump over someone butt first?
You're not allowed to jump. No, I didn't do that. We'll talk more about that later in the show. But there's this kid or guy. I'm guessing he's around my age. He played for Union AC Valley, and he has his own team there. People came from East Brady up there. I guess they all want to play flag football. And my first catch, I was running across, or I caught it. I turned around. I started running back towards the center of the field. And this guy comes running at me, and I planted my foot and juked right away. And he didn't have spikes on. he just slid like 10 yards. I was like, that felt amazing. I just juked that kid literally out of his shoes. So,
Too bad you didn't play that well back in June against me.
yeah.
I think my best flag football moment was in college where I was playing deep coverage on a guy that was running a go route, and I was able to keep him in check enough that I broke off of him when the quarterback threw the pass towards a guy running an in route, and I was able to break up the play. I didn't get an interception. I just broke up the play. That's the highlight of my flag football career.
I felt a little younger because there was a guy that ran a smash route on the goal line after he torched me for like a 30-yard gain on a deep route because I was arrogant and thought I could catch up to the deep ball, and I couldn't. He was faster than me, ball went over my head. But he ran a smash route on the goal line where he ran to the center and then broke back out, and I was quick enough with lateral movement to be able to dive, like lay out and smack the ball down, and that felt pretty good. I felt like I was like 18 again. It didn't hurt when I hit the ground, got right back up.
Gets up and, who do you think you are? I am.
My team had like 3 pick sixes. It was not a game competitively.
So let me ask you this. You're big on the celebration after you love this. Okay, so if you score a touchdown, what do you do?
Yeah. Can you show us? We have video. Do you want to stand up and show us?
It's funny
That could be
because
interesting.
my best friend Josh, he scored a pick 6. And I go running down the field, like when players jump up and into each other after they score. And I was telling him, like,
Chest
jump.
bump?
Yeah, I was telling him, jump up. And I jumped up, and as I was jumping up, he goes, no. And he just walks away because he felt bad we were beating the team as bad as we were. I was like, come on, like let's have fun with this. We're paying $80
Yeah,
per.
you need something.
You got to come up with a signature dance.
Yeah.
Every time you score a touchdown, people know what's coming.
The team we played, we beat really soundly, but there are 2 teams in that league. One of
And
them
it's
is
the Bebo.
One of them is made up by a lot of like younger former Butler players that I would feel really good beating because I'm 26 and they're 18 and 19, and show, hey, I still got something.
Beating up on children. Shame.
Then there's another team that's made up of.
You act like you're so much older, too. I mean, you're still young.
I know.
You're still in those, like, you can fall down on the ground and get up and
I'm
not
8 years
be like,
older than them.
tomorrow I can't move.
Right.
I can't come to work today because
But
I literally can't move.
There's another team made up by kids or guys that played youth football with me, and I didn't particularly like them. Like, they grew up around the island here, actually. And they have their own team, and they're very, very arrogant. Let me tell you, if I score a
They're
touchdown,
all listening to this.
yeah, I doubt that. But if we beat them, there's supposed to not be any fights in the league, so I hope that doesn't happen. Like your team gets kicked out if there's a fight, but I will make sure that they don't like me that day if we beat them.
Brendan has the weirdest trash talk that I think I've ever heard.
Weird trash talk.
There's not supposed to be any fights in the league, so I'm not going to talk about fights in the league, but there's not supposed to be any fights in the league. What are we doing?
My whole team, we had, it's like $750 per team, $750,
God.
and you have to pay a ref fee each game. And I was a ref for the second game after we played, so I made some money. But yeah, the whole team pays that, and I guess obviously they bring police action in it if you get into a fight because you're grown men. So it's not like playing on the playground anymore.
No, it's not.
But yeah,
Derek looks really, really into this conversation.
I have a story about, it wasn't technically flag football, but it was pickup. It was in gym class my senior year. And in my gym class, there were 6 or 7 players from the football team. And this is back when Connellsville football was very respectable. I mean, they weren't winning Whitfield titles every year, but they were a good team. And I was a wide receiver. My friend Chuck was the quarterback for my team. And Chuck was a lineman on the actual football team, but he threw a very pretty long ball. I mean, I'm talking like Terry Bradshaw, Byron Leftwich, Doug Williams. I mean, this long ball was
Byron
great.
Leftwich.
He threw a good long ball. So I line up, and on the other side of me, covering me, is I'm not going to name his name, but he's a football player from the actual football team. Just always seemed to be like arrogant, treated people just not the way you would want to be treated. But he was just not a nice person. And he's on me. I'm like, I look over at Chuck, and me and Chuck played a lot of pickup football in our hometown. And I just gave him this look, and he knew I was running a fly pattern here. He just nods, and so he says, "Hut." I just run straight down the field, right next to the sideline. I had this kid beat. Okay, he was actually, I believe, a year ahead of me. So he's a senior, I'm a junior. Chuck lays this ball perfectly placed. I mean, I'm talking, it could not have been more perfectly placed if a pro quarterback threw it. And it's probably about 35, 40 yards downfield, and it was like right here, and I almost caught it. To this day, I'm telling you, we're talking 30 years ago. To this day, I regret not catching that pass because against the kid who was on me, who was covering me, I'd literally pay money to go back and be able to catch that pass today.
He's setting this up as this perfect whimsical.
No,
I'm 11-year-old.
No.
This
was I was a junior in high school, but I just, to this day, I wish I would have made that catch because the kid who was covering me was just not a nice person, and I wanted to stick it to him, and I didn't catch it.
I will say, like, me and my best friend, like, we have the turkey bowl, and just to get out and be active, like, we go out once a week and throw routes to each other, and I think that helps, like, going in and playing, because a lot of the guys we played against were really out of shape. Like, you could tell they were there for fun, and once we started beating them really badly, I was like, okay. And the one guy was really nice, too. Like, he was, like, being cool to me, like, the whole game. He like, came up and, like, congratulated me on juking him out of his shoes. Like, I don't want to beat you guys that bad. Kind of nice. Like, I went up and got his number after. I was like, our friends, we play at Alameda in, like, the spring. If you want to come play with us, like, yeah, sure. So, if you're nice, people feel bad beating you. That's a life lesson, I guess.
What is like a core memory of youth sports? It doesn't matter what sport that you guys have, like a moment where maybe you succeeded and you like fell in love with the sport, or it like hooked you into continuing to play, or it's just like you continue to look back at it as like, yeah, my 6-year-old self was so dominant at this moment, because I got one.
I played a lot of Y flag football when I was a kid because my parents let me play tackle. Me and my brother played tackle until I was in 6th grade. He was in 4th grade. And I swear I used to treat every game like it was like an NFL game. Like, I up at the gym at the YMCA here, and I remember my dad was my coach the one time. We played the Seneca Valley Fields where the high school is. My dad was my coach, and that was probably like my favorite experience playing football because he was my coach. It was a fun time.
I played Little League Baseball for 7 years. I was really good for 2 years. Most of the time I was like one of those kids who would be on deck with 2 outs. Last inning, my team's down by 1, and my teammate's at the plate, and I'm rooting for him to strike out so I don't have to go up and strike out myself. That was most of my baseball career, but
same here.
for 2 years, I was really good, and this would have been the summer of '88, so I would have been 10 years old. And I played for a team called Joe's Market. It was a little convenience store in my hometown, and we're playing Bud Murphy's, which is still to this day one of the most popular drinking holes and places to eat in Connellsville. We're up 15-14, bottom of the 6th, which in Little League's the last inning, and I think Bud Murphy's had 2 or 3 runners on base. There's 2 outs. I can't remember who was at the plate, but I'm playing right field, and this kid hits this sinking liner, okay? Fortunately, I mean, I had the reflexes of a dead jungle cat, so but fortunately on this play, right when the ball came off the bat, I moved in the right direction, which was forward because it was sinking fast, and I came in, and my stocky, short, overweight self dived just in time to snag the ball before it hit the ground. I'm on my belly, last out, game's over. I got the game ball from that game. I still have it. I have the score right. Wow. Joe's Market 15, Bud Murphy's 14. As it turned out, we got into the playoffs that year and lost, and we did not win the title. But my dad still talks about that catch because it was like the crowning moment of my Little League career, and we beat Bud Murphy's. But it's funny. Every time I go to Bud Murphy's now, I still get served. So apparently they didn't hold any grudges.
My dad makes a point to listen to each episode. I had to like explain some of the inside jokes and stuff because he didn't listen to the first few ones. And I vividly remember, he probably doesn't remember this, but there was this kid who was super fast on the other team. We were the Saints, but we wore navy blue. That always made me mad. I was like, the Saints are gold. But
in the NFL they are.
Yeah, and in this one game, there was a kid running on the left sideline, and rather than try to pull his flag, I tried shoving him out of bounds because they were beating us, and I was annoyed.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad got mad because I tried pushing him out of bounds instead of grabbing his flag, so he yelled at me for not grabbing his flag, and I tried like shoving this kid. It's like 8 years old. I was small.
So my foundational memory is I was 7. It was my second year of Little League. And the way that the league was set up that I was in, it was this rec league. It wasn't like Little League baseball. It was this rec league in Moore Township where I grew up. The way it was set up is every other inning a kid pitched. So you had the coach for the team pitch to his own team one inning, and then a kid pitched the next inning. But there was the same kid that was about to pitch the second inning of the game would be the one that was fielding the position when the coach was pitching. It was just to help move the game along faster, it's my guess. So the second year is the first year that I get a chance to pitch because I'm old enough to like throw it a little bit more consistently and whatnot. And I always wanted to be a pitcher because like I just like the idea of pitching, but never got a chance to do it. And I go in and I throw 10 pitches, all 10 of them are strikes. One of them's fouled off. I strike out the side. And from that moment on, all I ever wanted to do was be a pitcher because I was just like, I love this feeling of making someone walk back to the bench. It is great. I love it. I just want to. And then from there, I eventually like figured out how to throw a curveball. And I would, and this was like a few years after this, but I started my whole mentality. I think I've talked to my therapist about this a little bit in recent months. Is like, I wanted to embarrass a kid. If I knew you couldn't hit a high fastball, I was going to throw you a high fastball. If I knew you couldn't hit 4 straight curveballs, I was going to throw you 4 straight curveballs. I just wanted every kid to strike out. That was my whole goal.
So with that mentality, what in writing would you, or reporting, or being a sports editor, would you compare to that feeling? Like what is your comparison?
So I'm like much more docile now with this stuff.
Docile.
Yeah. I got really competitive with another paper nearby at my first job, mainly because I just didn't care too much for some of the people leading that newsroom, not so much like the reporters that were there. I won't get too into that on air, but the paper used to be like the behemoth of high school sports reporting in all of like Harrisburg and the surrounding counties and everything. So we got kind of good at like writing better stories than them. They stopped focusing on a lot of stuff that wasn't football. So we were getting like the really cool stories on field hockey and soccer and basketball and baseball and everything else. And we were, breaking some more stories that they weren't, stuff that was beyond just, who's the latest kid to sign to, play D2 football or whatever it was, which like there's serious value in the recruiting stories. I understand that, but we were finding some stuff that they just weren't paying attention to. And I that was probably the most competitive I got, I think, as a journalist. I've never really looked at like I need to write a better story than any reporter I worked on staff with or against or anything like that. Maybe like 1 or 2 reporters that I just didn't have a particular care for. It was like, okay, I know I'm going to write something better than this person, but by and large, it was, I was competitive with wanting to write good stuff, not so much to try to beat someone with it.
How about you, Derek? Do you have a certain comparison to any mentality you have?
As far as writing?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that I'm going to write a better story than this guy, just like Jake said. I do believe that when we go out and cover an event, in effect, we can put our own spin on it. Like you, me, and Jake could all cover the same event, watch the same action, and it's like a fingerprint or a snowflake. No 2 stories are going to be exactly the same. And I like the fact that I'm able to kind of put my own spin on it, whether it's the lead, the quotes I use that I get from coaches or players, or where I put them in the story. Everything's going to be different. Something's going to be different from the story I have from the story that somebody else that also covers that game has. So it's kind of I know this is kind of weird to put it this way, but each story that we write is a historical count of that game.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always going to be a few copies of it out there, right? Even if it's a paper that somebody saves for another story in that paper, my story's going to be there. on the side, 30 years from now, if somebody glances at it and says, okay, who's this guy?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's an historical account, and as you guys know, I love history, and in that respect, sports, when you read a story down the road, it's in its own way, it is a piece of history about that game, and that's why I can't stand when I have a story that has an error in it.
Yeah.
A typo, especially if you get a kid's name wrong. That's like the worst. But even if it's just misspelling a word, because that's always going to be out there. There's always going to be a few copies of that paper out there somewhere. And 30 years from now, somebody reads a story and says, "Oh my God, this guy, put a comma where a period's supposed to be." That sounds small, but it gets to me. But
Well, yeah,
we do the best we can. We try to proof as much as we can.
You probably just proofed that script I wrote for you guys. I was like, there's a bunch of things in here that are probably not
Oh
right.
my gosh!
So
Was she drinking when she typed this up?
Coffee. 3 shots of espresso.
A month ago, the show that I missed, I don't think I talked about it on the show, was because my grandmother died. And so I went back home for the funeral, and my dad wrote something that he wanted to say, but my dad is not very good with expressing emotions, and called me up and he's like, I'd like you to read through this and then say it for me because you're better at speaking. And I was like, okay, cool. 36 hours of notice to speak at my grandmother's funeral. That's cool. But that night when I got in, before the night before the funeral, he had my mom look over it and my brother and my sister-in-law look over it before I got in, and he asked me to look over it, and I made like a whole bunch of changes, and I looked at it and I was like, how deep do you want me to go on this? Like, because I can really do editor brain here and fix a lot of stuff, or I can try to leave it as much like you and do whatever. And he's like, well, you're going to be the one saying this, so make the changes that you think are going to make it flow better. And I was like, okay, because it's going to be a lot. And I worked with him for like an hour and a half to really improve what it was. He had a really good foundation. It wasn't like it was bad. It was just the way that I would speak it and like try to get the message across was not. He's not a writer. He's print and circuit board designer. He works in engineering. He does not work with words. So I was there to try to help and spruce it up a little bit.
What you guys do, it's like an identity, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've been working here. We've talked about this.
23, almost 23.
Almost 23 years. That's, when you do it every single day. I'm the same way with, like, if I take a fitness class or, I worked in fitness for 12 years professionally. And if I take a fitness class or there's something with music, I was a music manager, I immediately hear things and I'm doing a little bit of that like head thing where I'm like, oh, that's so annoying. I wish they would not do that. But I had to learn as a trainer and a mentor that if I took someone's class to give them feedback, we always were told to give you want to give 3 positive things first. Like, these are the things that you're doing that are really positive, and then say, hey, let's work on this. Be a little bit more mindful of this, and this, because it makes people feel good that you're actually recognizing them for what they are doing, and rather than being like, you're not doing this right and you suck at this and you might as well just not do this ever again, So sometimes it's hard coming from a dance background too, it was hard to get into that mindset because dance teachers don't work that way.
Yeah. Criticism.
They're like, that sucked. Do it again. I had a dance teacher who told us that, that practice makes perfect. She's like, perfect practice makes perfect.
She sounds nice.
Oh, she was awesome. My feet were bleeding in rehearsal once. I was like, can I go? And she looked at, I'm not exaggerating when I say what she said. She looked down at my feet. She looked back up at me and she's like, lick it and let's keep going. And I was like, and I looked at my friend and I said, did she just tell me to?
That's what I'm going to tell you next time things get rough.
No.
Lick it.
She told me to lick the blood off my foot and keep going.
I think that's child abuse.
Well, I was
question mark.
Yeah, but I was it was in college at this time, and I thought I could just walk out of this room, and go to the head of the department and be like, well, that's messed up. I'm not doing that. But I didn't. I stayed and kept dancing with bloody feet.
Oh.
So sometimes when I get in dancer mode, if you see me snap my fingers, that means I'm going into dancer mode. So beware. You've been warned. Good times.
had to do similar with the officiant speak too, like that editing mode.
You look scared of me now.
A little.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
The same thing I did with my dad a month ago. My wife and I were doing with our officiant. One of my best friends. We were, going over the script that he had for our ceremony for a few weeks, and he made the comment at one point. It's like he said, it's very interesting to see how my brain works because he's very self-aware of how he operates versus how you guys are editing, especially me, because I was the one that was editing a lot more of it than Mallory was. But he's like, it's very interesting to go through the notes that you guys are sending me of the stuff that I write and just see how different, how completely opposite we're coming into this from. I was like, yeah, this is is how it works for me now.
Yeah.
I kind of can't turn it off.
Yeah, that's real. How are you guys feeling today? You're all very mellow. Or are you in thought? Or is it just because, today's kind of it's a day, right?
Oh, it's a day. Yeah.
It's a day.
I mean, we don't have to talk. I think it's normal for us to say, yeah, it's kind of a heavy day, right? For everybody. It feels a little...
I, don't even want to be on social media today. Bailey and I had a political talk, and I don't like talking politics, so I just kind of, my friends just talk about it. I'm just ready for the day to be over. I don't...
We have state playoffs tonight.
Yeah.
That's where I'm
we
trying
have
to
that.
keep my brain.
We got that.
I am just disappointed. I'm not disappointed about going to Altoona tonight in general. What I am disappointed in is I will not be here for the free pizza.
Oh, you guys do the free pizza on election night. That's right.
I will save some for you.
Yeah, well,
it's just,
have to be
they
tomorrow,
just get
'cause I'm going
Domino's,
straight
though.
home.
Nothing against Domino's, okay? I'm not... But...
It's greasy.
But,
heavy pizza.
there's so many mom and pop, pizza places here, that have really good pizza. And
I was
don't
offered
know.
free pizza last night when I was at Mars. I'm not sure if Jake got to take a look at my story. This doesn't have to go in, but I went last night, and Jake and I kind of figured out I should write about Mars' offensive line. They ran for 6 touchdowns. And we've already talked in depth about their running back Eric Kasparovich and the kids on their offense. So I went down and I stood at their practice for an hour. I tried to take some pictures. I wasn't able to get any good ones because of the shutter and the lights on the field. Just couldn't get any good pictures. But I ended up calling their biggest offensive lineman over before they were done with practice, and I started talking to him. I asked him some questions. He gave me the basic offensive line talk, and then he mentioned that they went celebrating after their upset on Friday night. From there, I figured out that they go to Permanis every Friday night after they win. So I called every offensive lineman over and asked them what their order was to kind of loosen them up a little bit, and then asked what does it mean to go out and spend some extra time with them. Then Jake Cradle, who I played football with at Butler, big guy, he played offensive line at Pitt. He came over and started bantering with them when I was talking to him too, because he came up, he's a good guy, talked to him nice. And turns out he owes them Permanis because he's made a bet with them. So they started joking around with him. And my whole story after a playoff upset was about these kids going to Permanis and ordering more food than I do. I'm a grown man. But
just wait, it gets worse.
The next time, that's really... That's I love that you did that, and I almost feel if you do that again, do you record on your phone?
Yeah.
I almost want that.
Oh.
Do you know what I mean? To include in this, because that's
Yeah.
interesting. With their permission, right?
Yeah.
You would have to obviously ask permission and make sure that we have permission to do that. But that's cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's really cool that you did that, and knowing that about them.
I originally was just gonna write that they have a senior lineman. He was a backup, and now he's a starter because the guy in front of him got hurt. And this kid's super quiet, and I learned going there and talking to coach as I was watching practice, just trying to see what I'd write about. And this coach told me that this senior that's now playing starting guard for them wasn't going to play this year. So I was going to dig into that story. And then when they told me that they go to Permanis, that's a really cool story. And then I called the senior over. He and I are the last ones to talk. And I said, so what do you get there? He goes, if I'm being honest, I haven't gone with them. I haven't been there. So I focused on him in the middle of the story and him thinking of not playing, and then he said if they win this week, which they'd go to the Whitfield final, he'd join them because it's a big thing. And so it ended up being a pretty cool story. I was cutting a lot of quotes I could have used out, and it still ended up being 26 inches. But I went in after, and I was talking to Kasparovich, and at that point, I maybe needed 1 or 2 quotes from Kasparovich, and he just kind of detailed last week's upset and what they're expecting this week, which ended up not being interesting enough to put in, but one of the moms came over and they had pulled pork for the offensive linemen, the hogs. They had pulled pork as their team meal. So it was a good week to like honor these.
So they were eating their mascot? Wait, what?
yeah, but
I'm confused. No, I'm just kidding.
These team moms
I
offered me food, and I am trying to diet and like be a little healthier. I've 1 day free without pop.
The
Today we'll
operative
make
word
2.
there is you said trying.
Today we'll make 2, and they said they had Sensi's pizza. They had all this food, and they're like, "Do you want to eat?" And I was like, "No, thank you." And I really did want to eat, but I was like, "No, thanks." Like, I walked out, and they like felt bad I didn't eat, but I was like, "It's okay."
Yeah.
I knew I made it in with this longtime coach, Pat Dieter, Boiling Springs, when I went to go talk to him after a game one time, and he tosses me one of the concession stand hot dogs. He was like, "Here, you want something to eat?" And I was like, "I ate dinner before the game started." He's like, "I don't care. Eat the hot dog." And I was like, "All right, cool. We're buddies now."
Him and John pick fun at me because John Gaylott, Freeport's coach, went to write a feature on their team. This would have been 2 seasons ago whenever they made the Whippeal semifinals. And he had a cake in his office. It was like a Hostess Ho-Ho cake or something like that, like chocolate with cream in it. And they gave me a piece of cake. I came back and told them they gave me a piece of cake. And they're like, "Oh, so you're going and getting cake in the coach's office?" Like,
Dieter would give it. I probably had like a half dozen.
Oh my gosh.
To a dozen hot dogs over the course of like 6 years covering Dieter, because he just tossed me one after I'd come into games.
What's Boiling Springs' nickname?
The Bubblers.
that's
Love
awesome.
that.
The
Such a good
Bubblers.
So cool.
The
Boiling
Bubblers.
Spring
Bubblers.
Bubblers. Their
Okay.
logo is not great. I actually liked it when they just did the purple bee, but they're
Yeah.
the Boiling Springs
bubbles?
Bubblers.
That
Yes,
and
3
That's
bubbles.
awesome.
Williamsport, which is nicknamed the Millionaires.
Uh,
Their logo is like the guy from Monopoly with the the
oh, yeah.
tuxedo on
Mhm.
and the cane. It's awesome.
How do you know it? That's awesome. I've never heard of that in my life. The
This is-
Bubblers and the Millionaires.
This isn't even.
So
this is
Bubblers, like what? Yeah, what does their mascot look like? What is that?
they
Why-
don't have a mascot.
Oh,
no.
it's
Their
just
logo.
the Bubblers.
Their logo has been for a while just like this purple bee, like bold script. But for a little while, they started going back to like this older logo that was 3 different sized bubbles. And I think it might still be on their basketball court. When I left, it was. But here, no, this is an even better school nickname. It's not my all-time favorite, but it's really, really good. Monroe Cheesemakers in Wisconsin.
Wow.
It's
yeah.
so good.
That makes sense. They're trying to get off the Green Bay Packers.
It's
the
such a
cheeseheads.
good
Cheeseheads.
nickname.
Cheeseheads. My friend's a cheesehead.
One of the Detroit Lions fans wore a cheese grater to the game.
Nice.
So a girl that I was really good friends with, we were in a show together in Vegas, the first show that I was in, and then we danced together in New York, and she is obsessed, and she's moved back to Green Bay, and every Christmas they dress up. At one game, there's a whole group of them, and one year they dressed up as Buddy the Elf. There was a group of them, but they had a sign that, you know how in that one scene where he's like, elves love, sugar and all these things, and it's like cheese puffs. It's like the 5 basic, and it was like food groups, and it was like all cheese related, and they all had the wig. They had the same costume on for the entire game. It was pretty awesome.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, they do that every year. They do something, some sort of theme, and Buddy the Elf was the best one. I was like that, and it was snowing that day too, so it was perfect.
I'm a
Anyways,
proud
that's just
bubbler.
Bubbler. Have you ever gone to a Steelers game and like dressed up? Like
Temple games I did
In khakis
when I was
and
in college.
no, I mean like dressed up.
No, I wore a jersey and a Steeler hat.
Yeah,
I would do
okay.
face paint at Temple games when I was in college. And one game we did full
like the
body
half
paint.
and half thing.
Each game I did something different. That was my whole goal. Starting freshman. And I didn't get to as many games junior and senior year with more jobs that I was doing, but I would do face paint for every game. And one game we did body paint, like torso on up, me and like 5 other friends.
Nice. Okay. All right. You guys ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah, I got to pull it up on my phone because my laptop is like dead.
Yeah, I heard you're having problems with your laptop. We were talking IT issues in our department head.
Oh, my computer.
Your computer, yeah.
We
I
need
got to talk
badly.
to for that one.
Yeah. Do you guys have external hard drives to like move stuff to? That's
I have one at home, but that's my home
probably.
one.
I mean, because that's what I have 2. I already filled up a 1 terabyte. I
don't,
can't put anything else on it. So
Word
now I have an
doc-
8
like, you
terabyte
work
hard
with
drive.
videos and audio and
yeah,
stuff.
Word
and-
documents don't take up anywhere near that space.
Okay.
I've got like 10 years of Word documents from my last jobs.
Yeah, no, the
I could just save
video
it
and
on, like, a
all
folder.
that stuff. It's like, it's insane.
Are we ready?
Let's do this football.
All right. So the first week of the high school football playoffs were played last week, and the 5 games that we had involving local teams yielded some incredible individual performances. I'm going to start off here with Mars's Eric Kasparovich, who scored 6 touchdowns in a win over Montour. Union AC Valley's Owen Bish, listen to this, 3 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing, and 1 receiving in a win over Otto Eldred. And Freeport's Drew Ross, 3 rushing touchdowns, 1 passing, and 1 on an interception return in a win over Mount Pleasant. All 3 efforts, obviously a huge part of those teams being able to move on in the playoffs. What are your thoughts on these players coming up big in do-or-die situations, or the wins themselves, just the games in general? Brendan, we're going to go to you first.
Bish having a passing, rushing, and receiving touchdown. The first thing that comes to mind there is
Slash.
how many players in Butler County history, or even just the history around here, have had passing, rushing, and receiving touchdown in one game, especially a playoff game.
I'm almost
nuts.
entirely positive he did this like in week 5.
Yeah.
This is the second time this year I think he's done this.
You know, I wrote an article earlier before the season about players who had a legitimate shot at the scoring trophy, and Bish was one of my players. And he obviously didn't win it. It's a regular season award, so the points tallied up for that are already done with. But he is an incredible athlete. I remember comparing him in the story to a quarterback that Slippery Rock had about 15 years ago named John O'Powell, who actually did win our scoring trophy. I believe it was in 2008. But Bish, I mean, you talk about MVP. There's a lot of guys on that team that are big reasons why that team's still playing District 9 semifinals this week. But he's obviously at the head of the list there. And regarding Mars, they had lost him on tour by, I believe it was 17 points in the regular season. And they were down 21-6 at halftime of the playoff game this past Friday. So incredible resolve shown by Kasparovich and the Planets. And as far as Ross goes, making plays on both sides of the ball. Yeah, he had the pick 6, and he accounted for, I believe, four total touchdowns on offense. Anyway, that's what teams, especially the size of Freeport, they're not a big school. They need guys coming up with plays like that on both sides of the ball. Freeport moving on as well.
Oh, it's a cliche in a lot of sports, though, where at this time of year you need your best players to perform at their best, and that's what Mars and Freeport and Union AC got. Is they got the 3 guys. We've been talking about these guys for most of this year, and so when you get to the stage, you need to be talking about them again. If you're not, they probably have lost, and here they are. They won, and a couple of them in upsets, which bravo to Brendan for calling the Montour upset, or the Mars Montour upset. He got that one right. Almost got the Carn City one.
Yeah.
If it would have been halftime, you would have won that game too.
Regarding Mars, though, I look back at what we believed their season was going to be. I mean, with Luke Goodworth at quarterback, and they go down to Florida, and they had that huge win over Boone in Orlando, and then they come back and they struggle. They lose 4 straight games. They lose Goodworth, who is a very talented high school quarterback. For them to kind of pivot and make the changes they needed to make on that offense to still be playing. Here we are in early November. Wow. A lot of credit goes to obviously Kasparovich, the head coach, but his son, a lot of other guys. Mason Childress, part of it down there. Sean Franklin, you talked about their offensive line earlier. Just a great job by Mars to have the resolve to say, you know what, things didn't go well for us early, but we're going to be a very tough out, and here they are still playing in early November.
Yeah.
So non-football-wise, we actually had 5 teams play for district titles last week. Winning were Mars Girls Volleyball and Carn City Girls Soccer, and losing were Carn City Football, Seneca Valley Girls Soccer, and North Catholic Girls Volleyball. All of these games were covered by one of us. So I wanted to go to each of you. We're going to start with you, Brendan. You cover the Carn City football game, but if there's something that stuck out about what you read about the other games too, you can point that out as well. What do you got for us?
As Jake mentioned with that Carn City football game, holding Central Clarion to 7 points in the first half was incredible. That the effort that they put up there. And really, Central Clarion didn't score until the last 2 minutes of the first half, which is right after Carn City went down on, I think it was a 15-play, 86-yard drive, and scored. And it was all, like, bruising runs, like, they were running those reverses and
Karn City football.
all those interesting, like quarterback running in the lead block, which we've talked about before, which you hardly ever see a quarterback making the lead block on a play, which still boggles my mind the way that they're able to put that together. But you could tell
Kenny Pickett.
The lead of my story regarded Jace Ferguson throwing a deep ball to one of his receivers on the first snap of the second half, and you could tell right after they took that 14-7 lead, things were going to go downhill. Karn City still fought. They didn't really give up, but at that point, things, like I said, went downhill for them. And still, the fact that they lost them 65-0 in the first meeting of the season and then were tied 7-7 with them at halftime, I thought they had a legitimate chance. When they lined up after the game, Central Clarion lines up at 145. The Karn City team lines up the other 45. Karn City had half the kids they did. So those kids stuck in there, and it was a colder night. It was really impressive to see.
Jake, you covered a doozy down at Peters Township with North Catholic Girls Volleyball going up against North Allegheny for the third time this year.
I couldn't really editorialize that recap too much. I did try to throw in a little bit of like understanding of what it was like to watch that, but that second set, especially from like the point where I think NA tied it 24-24 until that second set was decided 33-31 in favor of the Tigers. That was the best stretch of like 20 minutes of high school volleyball I have ever seen. It was nearly flawless. I think one of those points was decided off of an error. The rest of those points were, the one team beating another, usually after a long rally. One of those rallies was like, I want to say like 3.5 minutes long in and of itself. And Sienna Koza, I saw her afterwards, just like she gets done after diving off the floor. The point ends and she's just like just hunched over, just like trying to breathe a little bit. Like it was an exhausting set. It was brilliant volleyball though. I think the only time I've ever watched better volleyball has been like college and Olympics. Like it was really, really, you're not going to see, these high school kids are not going to play as well as like the D1 counterparts and what you would watch in the Olympics, obviously. But for the high school level, I don't think I've ever seen anything during that 25 or so minute stretch that was that good. And Koza said at the end of the game, she felt whoever won that set would go on to win the match, and she was right. North Catholic was up 1-0 going into that set, loses that set. North Allegheny then wins the next two to win 3-1, and it took all of the wind out. I don't like using momentum too much, but it took all the wind out of North Catholic set. Like the very next set, they went down 7-2, and it didn't look like they were anywhere close to competitive with it. So I was really impressed by that. And you and I, Derek, were talking because you were covering that Mars game before me. Like the view that we had, at Peters Township High School was really good. So like it was just this great bird's eye view to be able to see just the action playing out and the quality of volleyball. That was. I think there's going to be a lot of state matches this year that are not going to be anywhere near as competitive as that match was.
I actually covered 3 of these games, and I don't want to shortchange anyone, so I got a little bit of something to say about each one. I'm going to start off with Seneca Valley Girls Soccer. Last Friday, they lost to Peters Township in the Whitbill Final. This is Class 4A, 5-4 on penalty kicks. And you hear every coach say it. It's such a tough way to lose on penalty kicks, but I don't disagree with them. Mm-hmm. Who knows how long it would have taken one of those teams to actually score a legitimate goal, and it was the first game of a doubleheader. As it was the 8 o'clock game, which I believe was Plum Boys against, I can't remember who they played, but it was scheduled to start at 8 o'clock, and it was late getting started because my game, Seneca Valley Peters Township, ran so long. So if you let those girls play another, say, hour, and that's when it's finally decided. Now the boys game, which was supposed to start at 8, started at 9:30. So penalty kicks is a very tough way to lose, but you got to have them. You got to come out with a winner, and you can't have a game lasting like 4 hours. Karn City Girls Soccer won the 26th District 9 title in 30 years with a 1-0 win over Brockway. This game was played last Wednesday at Brookville High School. Caitlin Van Dyke had the only goal of the game, assisted by Layla Colsey. Now, the Gremlins had defeated the Rovers, I think it was just like 2 weeks before in the regular season, 5-0. And this game was obviously, the championship game, 1-0, was obviously much more highly competitive. Brockway played a great game. They didn't give up that goal to Karn City until I think there was about 6-7 minutes left. When a team's season is on the line, players often reach another level of competitiveness. I think that played a part in Karn City football too. I mean, those kids knew that, we're going up against this juggernaut in Central Clarion. So many people have picked them to go to the state title, but if we lose here, our season's done. And I think that had a big part to do with the way the Gremlins played last Friday. And regarding Mars Volleyball, Jake, this was the game that was held at AHN Arena down at Peters Township before your game. Mars was 2 points shy from falling, 2 points away from falling down 2-1 against Beaver. And they came back and won that set 25-23 to go up 2-1 themselves. And then they dominated the fourth set. The fourth set, I think the final score was 25-15, but I mean it was really never close once Mars got up to I think at one point they were up 8-3. It was never really close after that. And there are so many girls contributing kills for Mars, and they're being set up by a freshman setter. Brendan, I talked about talked about this girl with you the other day, Gabby Weideman, who she's green in one respect as far as varsity experience, but she has a lot of club experience that she's brought to the floor, and she's the one setting up all these girls who are dropping kills for Mars. Big reason why the Planets are in the state playoffs as a district champion, and I would not be surprised if they were able to make a state run.
Welcome to Beyond Butler, our weekly segment where we talk about something either professionally or collegiately that is outside of the Butler County lines. This week, I was watching the Eagles-Jaguars game on Sunday night. As Jake was working, he didn't get to see this play live, but we've all seen it on social media since. I was watching the game with my girlfriend, and I saw Saquon Barkley hurdle someone while facing away from them. It was a backwards hurdle, which I've never seen in any football game in my life. It was definitely one of the coolest plays I've seen in my life. There's a lot of catches and stuff that make you say wow when you see them, but that was one of those plays where Nike made an ad out of it. I'm not sure if you guys got to see where it's like a backwards witness or something like that. It was pretty cool. So I wanted to ask you guys, I have an answer myself as well. What is the coolest football play you've seen, whether in person or on TV?
So can I jump in? Can I jump in, Brendan? Can I jump in? Can I ask? Or can I answer? I mean, the Saquon Barkley play, the one that you just referenced, that was pretty cool. Yeah. Also, the Philly play, that was also pretty cool. I'm not biased at all on any of those answers. Derek, what's your answer? Why is it Saquon Barkley?
I don't. No, this question is very easy to pick a offensive player, like a great effort on a single play by an offensive player. And I know you guys have seen this. Troy Polamalu, and I know LeVar Arrington did it at least once at Penn State, where they come up to the line like right over the center, and they time their jump perfectly with a snap. Did you ever see that play by
Collins? It was Kerry Collins, right?
For the Tennessee?
Yeah.
Was he the quarterback?
I think
then?
so.
Okay. Where he times his jump perfectly, and by the time the quarterback just begins the turn to either play fake or hand it off, the guy's already on his back. And Troy Polamalu did it. I know LeVar Arrington did it when he was playing at Penn State. And you're thinking to yourself, okay, that they're going to throw a flag on that. It was obviously offsides. They show the replay, and they begin their jump just as the ball's being hiked. It's perfectly timed. A lot of guys have tried it, but to time it perfectly, obviously there's some luck involved there. But I'm a little biased because obviously Troy Polamalu is a Steeler. I have his jersey. I wear it for games sometimes. But that was an incredible play. And that play that Troy did, it was actually at the goal line.
Yeah.
It was right at the goal line. So the Titans go from a whatever in goal at the goal line to like the 3-yard line. And it's awesome play.
That may be cool, but I want to see him do it butt first.
Butt first.
Do you remember?
There's a lot of things I'd love to do butt first. But
do you remember the 2015 AFC wildcard between the Steelers and the Bengals and Cincy? It was a game
the Steelers and Bengals and Cincy?
In Cincy. And
Okay.
They were throwing water bottles at Ben Roethlisberger. You remember that?
That's the game where the penalty on Burfict.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same game as Martavis Bryant caught that ball while somersaulting and holding it to the back of his thigh. You remember that?
I do remember that.
That was the coolest play I've ever seen.
But he didn't do it butt first.
He pinned it to his butt. I'm speaking of Penn State, Saquon Barkley. Talk about goal line stands. I know you guys were working. You didn't get to see it, but
I am told, though, I want to get your take on this. I am told by somebody that there were some very, very questionable calls earlier in that game that went Ohio State's way. Do you know what I'm talking about? Because I haven't seen one play from that game.
There was one call. It was a third down where Ohio State didn't catch the ball that was thrown, and the Penn State defender, you know how Allen Iverson stepped over Tyronn Lue? He did that to him on the sideline. So they threw a flag called unsportsmanlike conduct. But
Weak.
well, you know what's weak? Not being able to score an offensive touchdown an entire game. That's all I'll say there.
Penn State's weak.
I spotted my friends. My friends are all Penn State fans, and they were going crazy when it was 10-0.
Personally, go ahead. I'm sorry.
My friends are going crazy when it's 10-0. And after Ohio State comes back, makes it 14-10, I was texting them, I was like, you guys are so adorable. We spot you a 10-point lead, and you still can't beat us. It's hilarious.
I told Derek on Friday, I said the only way that this game could go well for me is if both teams tied. Just don't want either of them to be happy.
Regarding the refs, though, and I know a lot of people are going to disagree with, I have watched a lot of football in my life. Obviously, I'm 46 years old. I can remember watching football when I was 5.
You like officiating, though.
I have never seen, and I this is just my opinion, I have never seen a game, college, high school, midget, pros, where the officials decided the outcome of a game. That's my personal opinion. There's bad calls in every game, but you have to account for that. That's why if you're up 20-17 late and a bad call goes your way and the other team scores a touchdown, that's why you make sure you're up by more than 3 at the end of the game. There's bad calls. You have to account for that. Like they say, holding could literally be called on pretty much every play, right? Sometimes it's going to be called, sometimes it's not. Account for it. Make sure you're up by more than 1 score at the end of the game.
So, Brendan, is your trivia question going to be Ohio State related this week?
It's not. It's so football related. I think Derek might have an idea.
I'm disappointed. I thought it would be Ohio State related.
It can't be next week. My question for you today, Derek, is who is the only NFL player whose only NFL reception was a touchdown in a Super Bowl?
I'm going to answer that right now. Percy Howard, Cowboys, Super Bowl 10. Bam!
There we go.
Wow.
Man, you talk about a softball.
He just dunked all over you.
I have seen highlights of that Super Bowl literally maybe 100 times, and I also have the entire game on DVD.
Of course you do.
You got to spend your time somehow.
Back to 500.
All right, we got the picks, and we're going to have to kind of breeze through these because we're running a little late. But choose the winner of these games with a bit of analysis. A bit, Brendan. Seneca Valley versus Central Catholic, neutral site at West Mifflin.
Central Catholic. That's not going to change. Central Catholic wins this 156-20.
Jake.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to be a very pretty game here. I'm picking Central Catholic 54-10.
A 60-7 loss to the Vikings 3 weeks ago has to be hard for the Raiders to shake mentally. The rematch will be a little closer, but the result the same. Central Catholic 41-15. All right, Brendan, Mars against McKeesport. Are you picking another upset?
I stood next to Sean Franklin last night, Mars left tackle. The rest of their offensive line is pretty big. They can eat a lot as well. I will say Mars pulls another upset, headed to the Whippeal title game 28-20.
The analysis you will only get at the Butler Eagle.
Jake.
Are the Plants making a run, guys? Because I think they're making a run.
Yeah.
I think they're going to win this one 30-28.
The Tigers have a powerful ground attack, but the passing game is paltry. That's my word of the week. The Planets Avenge a 28-7 loss suffered last month to the Tigers. Mars 27-20. Freeport at Central Valley. I believe this is the game I'm going to. Brendan, you like Freeport to pull off the upset?
I saw Central Valley play in the playoffs against Mars last year. Mars was a very physical team, as is Freeport. Freeport takes this one 31-28.
Jake.
T. Mason Dixon is averaging nearly 10 yards a carry. I don't know if Freeport has enough to slow them down on defense. So I'm picking Central Valley 28-21. I think it'll be close.
The Warriors scored at least 44 points in 5 of their 6 conference games. I think Freeport's defense will hold them well below that, but not enough to win. Central Valley 31-16. North Catholic at Elizabeth Forward. We're going to go to Jake first on this one.
Charlie Nugent. He's run for nearly 1,200 yards. He's caught nearly 500 more and has 26 combined touchdowns. As we've talked about a few times this year, North Catholic's defense is not its strength. Elizabeth Forward's going to win this one 42-27.
Brennan.
I've covered a WPIAL playoff game at Elizabeth Forward's place my first year here. The energy in that stadium with the bleachers on one side will be a lot. I think it'll carry them to a victory. Elizabeth Forward 35-24.
The Trojans barely made it into the playoffs and are now playing with house money. North Catholic 30-22 in their second straight upset. All right, Union AC Valley against Red Bank Valley. This game's being played in Brookville. Brendan.
I think that Union AC Valley seems to have found a groove on offense with their scoring output last week. I'm going to stay with the hot hand. They win 35-34.
Jake.
It's tough to make much out of a week 1 game when it's a rematch 2.5, 3 months later, but Bulldogs quarterback Braylon Wagner has really, really shined. 2,500-something yards, 32 touchdowns. I think that offense will be just a bit too much for Union AC's own very good offense. I pick Red Bank Valley 38-30.
I say the Bulldogs. I'm going to pick the Bulldogs in this one. They defeated the Falcon Knights, as Jake mentioned, 49-13 way back in week 1. Union AC Valley is a much better team now, but will it be enough? I don't think so. Red Bank 33-31. Lastly, we're going to talk about non-football. What are some of the moments, not just this year, but in your time covering sports here at the Butler Eagle, Brendan, what are some of the moments covering soccer and or volleyball, preferably in the playoffs, that stick out for you?
So I can't remember who the opponent was. I covered back-to-back doubleheader that day at Cumberland Valley, was it? You were down there too?
Yep.
North Catholic came literal maybe 6 inches away from a state title that day in the 5th set of a match that was super tightly contested. I'm not joking. The ball fell maybe if line was right there, the ball fell like right here. And they ruled it out, and the other team tied it up and then won, I think, 2 serves later. So, yeah, that was a really big story to write, go down and say you guys lost like by little inches, and it was a very interesting story. So,
Jake.
So I've covered 2 teams make a state championship run. Cumberland Valley, I think, lost its state championship game, and I think I remember covering Trinity win their state championship game a few years later. But the most memorable volleyball moment I have is when I was in college and I used to broadcast games for the athletic department, and every now and then I'd also be play-by-play guy. And I was play-by-play for Hawaii night for Temple Women's Volleyball's game. I can't remember who they were playing, but they had a girl on their team who was from Hawaii, so they did this whole thing for her. Her family flew in from Hawaii, which is, 9-hour flight away. And so me and my co-broadcaster for the show dressed in like as Hawaiian of gear as poor college students could get, and we got Hawaiian leis as well, and broadcast what was a very entertaining game. That was a memory that stuck with me.
I'm going to go with a 2018 soccer game I covered down at Highmark. Same matchup as this past Friday with Seneca Valley girls against Peters Township. Peters Township is up 1-0 very late in the game, inside of a minute left. Seneca Valley has one last push. Brianna Valentovich, who was a really good offensive threat for them, gets fouled just outside of the penalty box. So now she's got a free kick from about 20, 22 yards. The ball's set. We're ready to go. The clock's ticking down. It's like 30 seconds, 29. This girl for Peters Township parks herself about 10 feet in front of the lane where, the projection of the shot. She just right in the middle of, and Brandon's looking at the ref like, are you going to tell this girl to move? And she's tying her shoe. She's pretending like her shoe's untied. Clock's ticking down, 20 seconds, 19. I'm thinking to myself, what is going on here? She has to let this girl take the shot. Finally, with about 10 seconds left, this girl from Peters Township gets up. Brianna Valentovich takes the shot and scores with 3 seconds left in regulation to tie it up. Literally about a minute and a half into overtime, Lauren Cilio, another really good offensive player for Seneca, scores. Seneca Valley wins 2-1 in overtime. But just think if that shot for Valentovich doesn't go in and there's a rebound. The fact that girl was in front of the ball for a good 25 seconds tying her shoe. That pretty much took away Seneca Valley's chance to rebound. Luckily for them, they didn't need a rebound because the shot went in. I still can't believe that. And I can't believe that the official doesn't have the right to go up and say, look, this team earned a free kick. You have to get out of the way.
Yeah.
He didn't do that. She got up on her own, but she got up on her own with like 10 seconds left. And when the foul was originally called, there was like 35 seconds left.
Wow.
That's it for this week. Tune in next week. Alter Eagles Ion Sports Podcast would like to thank our sponsors: Butler County Chamber of Commerce, R.W. McDonald & Sons Incorporated, Robert Stevens Jewelers. We encourage you to subscribe to the Butler Eagle YouTube channel and Apple or Spotify podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Alter Eagle Podcast and at Butler Eagle News. Goodbye.